Whether you know it or not, today is a pivotal day in the history of Cardano. Today is the day we declare ourselves a blockchain of decentralization and value, or one of extraction and mediocrity. It's all up to us. Ready? Let's go. Today, we're going to discuss an incredible and unexpected vote by a Cardano stake pool, the opening day of the Re-delegation period, the Cardano Layerverse coming to life, and a very good sign out of China. If you feel like these plain buttons are a little too unceremonious for such a big choice, or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Do you know what is the easiest thing in all of crypto? It's mediocrity. And what's the best way to become thoroughly mediocre in crypto? It's to make extraction your goal, to make value extraction your goal. The best way to be mediocre in crypto is to aim your whole blockchain ecosystem at extraction of value from the community, from the citizens of your blockchain. That's the best way to become mediocre, because that's all a lot of blockchains are. A lot of blockchains are pretty much built only for the purpose of value extraction. Nothing really gets built unless it's for value extraction. There's a different path. That different path often looks like decentralization and value. And Cardano has come to one of those crossroads. This SPO poll is something that's easy to brush off, to pretend like it's not important. But this is actually a declaration of which of those two roads our blockchain ecosystem is going to go down. We can either go down the extraction and mediocrity path, like thousands, literally thousands of other blockchains before us, or we can go down the decentralization and value path. There are a lot of multi-poolers who have already voted for what, in my opinion, amounts to extraction and mediocrity. Look at this option here. This is 89.5% multi-poolers. But you notice something interesting. The option of decentralization, this one right here, has pulled ahead. We're now at 2.57 billion ADA when we're measuring by stake, versus the next option, which is only 2.5 billion. Decentralization is winning, and no surprise, this is mostly single poolers. But you notice there's a significant percentage of multi-poolers there. There's a reason for that. We're going to talk about that in a second. Of course, you come over here by answers by number of pools. Same thing. This option is way ahead. 309 votes. The next best option, 162 votes. This option, the option of decentralization, killing the other options. And when we isolate the variables here, the parameters, again, we see the decentralization option, min pool cost of 170, is killing the other option. You can see that the K parameter is a little bit different. K to 1,000 is still trailing K at 500 as measured by pool stake. But if we come over here to answers by number of pools, then you can see that 170 is killing 340 by a vote of 397 to 231, and K to 1,000 is killing K at 500 by a vote of 473 to 155. So decentralization is definitely winning on both parameters by number of pools. But if we come down here, there's a new field, answers by number of SPOs. Obviously, multi-poolers have multiple pools, but if we just count each multi-pooler as one vote, things look even better for decentralization. Now, this option is killing the other options by a vote of 266 to 131 for the next best option. If we isolate the two different parameters, 170 is killing 340, and K to 1,000 is really killing keep K at 500. So things have obviously gotten a lot better for the option of decentralization over the last couple of days. Okay, just the last day, really. Why is that? It's because an incredible vote came in from a multi-pooler. The multi-pooler who maybe a lot of people almost least expected to vote for decentralization. Maybe the multi-pooler outside of the big exchanges like Coinbase, Binance, Kraken. Binance is kind of gone now, but Coinbase and Kraken. The multi-pooler outside of those, who is one of the ones who almost had the most to lose from decentralization. What happened? They looked at these options: decentralization and value, a long-term proposition; extraction and mediocrity, a short-term proposition. What did they choose? They chose decentralization. What am I talking about? Here are the pools that have voted recently for the decentralization option. K at 1,000, min pool cost at 170. And what do we see if we cruise down here? If we cruise down here, we see this: 1PCT, the most notorious non-exchange multi-pool in Cardano. These guys, whoever 1PCT is, I won't assume anything about their identity, but 1PCT has a huge number of pools. And look at all these votes. They voted for decentralization. K equals 1,000, min pool cost 170. Look at all these votes. It goes on and on and on and on. 1PCT looked at the options and they decided to vote for decentralization. Very commendable. And thank you, 1PCT, from the bottom of my heart. I truly appreciate this vote. I know there are a lot of other people out there who really appreciate what you did here. Everybody knows you could have voted for short-term self-interest. You voted for long-term interest of everyone. Your group of pools included, but also the entire ecosystem. This was a vote for decentralization and a long-term prosperous ecosystem. Thank you, 1PCT. But this was all just phase one of the poll. What happens next? So on the day that this video comes out, phase one will end and phase two will begin with the beginning of the new epoch. This is the beginning of the re-delegation phase. I know that some of you have already re-delegated, and thank you. For those of you who re-delegated because you believe in decentralization and you didn't believe that your pool was voting in favor of decentralization, thank you. All of us who believe in decentralization appreciate your re-delegation. For those of you who haven't, I know some people were waiting for the re-delegation period to begin. This is your time. This is your time to vote for decentralization. It will be worth it. Take out the 5 minutes to redelegate. Just do it. Go to your wallet and redelegate. It'll be worth it. This is if you don't believe that your pool is voting for decentralization. People might have different theories about what parameters will result in decentralization. Whatever you believe, though, if you believe that your pool is not voting in favor of decentralization, then instead they're voting for their own extraction from the community. They're voting in a manner which would lead to mediocrity. If you believe they're voting like that, you need to redelegate. This is the redelegation phase. If everyone redelegates, it'll send home the message, and K to 1,000 could possibly even beat K at 500 as measured by pool stake. I think the measurement by number of pools, the measurement by SPOs, it kind of sends the message on K to 1,000 versus K at 500. But if enough people redelegate, we can also change this result here, and we can get to K to 1,000 leading K at 500, even by pool stake. So if you don't think your pool has voted for decentralization, and believe me, a bunch of them have not. A bunch of multi-pool operators and others have not voted for decentralization. They might have every explanation in the world as to why they're not just voting for their pocketbooks, but believe me, a bunch of stake pool operators have just voted for their own pocketbooks. If you believe that's the case with the pool you're currently delegated to, you need to redelegate, because there's going to be a snapshot. In 2 epochs, there will be a snapshot. And if you've redelegated by then, it's going to change these answers, because the Cardano Foundation is going to look at where the delegation sits at the end of the redelegation period. That's going to be the deciding factor. That's going to be the important part. This poll is not going to be binding on anybody, on the Cardano Foundation or Emergo or IOG, who will make the ultimate decision. But they're going to take this under advisement. This is going to be data they're going to use to make their decision. We can influence their decision by redelegating if you don't think that your pool voted in favor of decentralization. Just do it. It'll take 5 minutes. It'll be worth it. You might remember from way back in Cardano Rumor Rundown number 177, back in September 2021, we talked about this concept of the Cardano Layerverse. This was the idea that Cardano could have all kinds of side chains and L2s and layers to accomplish whatever arbitrary use case might lay before us. We could make all kinds of arbitrary compromises and sacrifices of involving any of the legs of the blockchain trilemma. You might have one layer in the Layerverse that you want to achieve very, very high levels of scaling. So you might make sacrifices to decentralization and security. You might want to have one layer that is very high security and make other sacrifices. You could do anything you wanted to if you created a new layer in the Cardano Layerverse. Then we talked about it again in March of 2022. Then we talked about it again in January of this year. Here's the beautiful part. It's really starting to happen now on the sidechain front. This poster says, did you know there's already 4 entities building sidechains? In my opinion, this is one of the most underrated part of Cardano's scaling and customizability plans. Here's a quick intro to the unique benefits of Cardano sidechains and an overview of these 4 awesome projects. And indeed, we've got Milkomeda, Midnight, World Mobile, and Hypercycle all building sidechains that will be within the Cardano Layerverse. Finally, do you remember our discussion yesterday about how that proclamation from the Hong Kong Securities and Futures Commission about a proposed new regulatory framework for crypto exchanges, how it might have been a signal that China was wavering back into the pro-crypto camp? Seems like China has historically sort of flopped back and forth on crypto. Crypto's totally illegal. They hate it. The next 6-month period, they love crypto. Crypto's everywhere. It looks like that might have been right. That might have been a signal that China was coming back into the crypto camp, because we saw this today from CZ. CCTV, China Central Television, just broadcasted crypto. It's a big deal. The Chinese-speaking communities are buzzing. Historically, coverages like these led to bull runs. Not saying past predicts the future and not financial advice. This is very interesting. Again, who knows what this will actually mean? Who knows if anything will come of this? But I think this is a notable event to have on your radar. I hope you're having a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.